Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Tether Radio podcast, the only podcast keeping you from spiraling out into the infinite abyss. My name is Daniel, and I'm joined today, as always, by my brother and co-host, Joseph.
Hello. How you doing, DB?
What it be, brother?
Man, living the dream here. Just just thinking about Klaus, King Dick Gummy Bear here.
Yeah.
Oh man, so yeah, for those that are listening, there are some really absurd songs on YouTube that just have out of control views, billions of views. And I don't want to digress too much here, but actually we'll just throw the links up. But one is what is that frog? What's it called?
Wait.
The frog one?
Ding dong da ding da ding ding da ding 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 da ding da ding.
What's going on?
Good God.
I'm not gonna play any more than that because that's all I can handle.
Yeah. Please don't. But yeah, Daniel and I were just talking about this. Like, definitely the person that wrote that is like, Ekberg von, Stieglitz or whatever. And he's like, and he was, I'm sure he had frosted tips and some Oakleys.
Dude,
it was just like,
1.3 billion.
1.3 billion, dude. And, I'm sure
that's, by the way, that's Crazy Frog by I'm sorry. I guess the name of the song is Axel F by Crazy Frog.
Yeah, but dude, I can guarantee you that he dropped that hot hammer in Ibiza.
Yeah. Seriously.
Yeah, dude. In Ibiza 97, dude, it was, that shit was wild. There was a foam party.
Yeah.
Hot frog. What's it called?
Hot frog. Crazy Frog. No,
Crazy Frog.
The name of I guess if you can even call it a band, is Crazy Frog. But
Crazy Frog, right.
Whoever composed that, Jim.
Oh my God, dude. Yeah, well, there are many others. We'll have to throw these up. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why anyone would want that link, but but we're happy to do it. And this is it's another day, I guess, at Tether, listening to shitty music. Talking about the depressing state of the world. All right, so dude, we've got an action-packed, gigantic episode today. So many things that we're going to be going.
What's going on?
So many things that we're going to be going through here. And so get us kicked off. There seems to be some kind of entrepreneurship happening up in Pennsylvania. That
so this is actually
it's in Michigan.
Yeah, this comes straight out of Colon, Michigan. I don't know if that's actually how it's pronounced.
No, wait.
It literally is COLON.
Oh, man. You guys got to check this piping hot love straight out of Colon, Michigan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It probably is, by the way.
Yeah. So this article I pulled actually from Fox News. Michigan man creates Amish Uber with horse and buggy. So this cat in Michigan, basically, he said that let me pull this dude's name. Timothy, either Hochstedler or Hochstedler.
Hochstedler, I think.
Hochstedler, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so he decided that there were not that many actual Uber drivers in Colon, Michigan. And so he was like, I'm going to take it upon myself to give a more scenic route. And so he offers $5 rides, I guess, to get patrons from point A to point B, which, I mean, that has to be like... Wait,
I don't understand, though. This isn't app-driven.
No, so that's the
So
thing.
it's a taxi.
Yeah, well, no, exactly, because they were talking, obviously the Amish don't, or I guess he is part of the type of Amish person that does not use a cell phone, because I think aren't there different like tiers of like I guess technology that depending on what how strict of an Amish group,
Yeah.
Is
no,
that right?
So this is
a
total blind spot for me, because I know that there are like Mennonites that are called Black Bumper Mennonites. And so it's like in the Mennonite community, which I think is like, in real estate terms is Amish adjacent.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to have certain levels of technology, but Black Bumper Mennonites can actually drive cars. So,
Gotcha.
does this guy, I mean, I'm reading this. It's just a taxi.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's the thing. Literally, there's no difference than I know in, for instance, I lived in Memphis for a little bit, and they did horse and, carriage rides in Memphis, and they would all line up in an area, and you could go, whatever, take a ride or whatever.
This is fake news. This is fake news.
Oh, well, no, I mean, it's
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
We need to get to the bottom of this.
I'm kidding.
I've reached out to Hochstadler to really get to the bottom of it.
Yeah. Hochstadler. I mean, look, man, I'm not even recording this. What are you up to, dude?
Yeah,
this is total this is bullshit, dude. You just force fit this.
If you watch the video on here, he has he posted a video, or I guess a person that patronized his business posted a video, and he has taken the Uber. He basically took clip art like from Microsoft, like Office 95, and put like a horse and buggy, and then put like the Uber's like thing underneath it. It's pretty awesome to me.
Good. And he's just stacking fives.
Yeah,
dude.
seriously, dude. He's having all meals paid for. So, but no, there's not a hell of a lot to say about this. I just thought it was kind of funny. First of all, that this dude is, obviously doing the Amish horse and buggy rides, and in addition to the fact that it's functioning in Colon, Michigan. So, but anyway,
right.
For anyone
so
out there,
if you're in Colon, don't forget your stack of $5 bills so you can get around.
There you go.
Yeah.
But anyway, we won't stay on that.
No, you were getting ready to say something for anybody out there.
Oh, I was just gonna say, for anyone out there wondering where Colon is, it's apparently 80 miles south of Grand Rapids, Michigan. So, if you're ever looking for some Amish Uber, dude, you know where to find it.
So if you find yourself wasted in Colon with no way to get back to your,
I feel like that's like one of the only ways that I would end up using a horse and carriage like Uber is like that's when that idea would seem like pretty solid. You stumble out of a bar and just like, Tim Hochstadler's sitting there with his Amish Uber, and I'm like, $5, it sounds good. So
yeah, it's a pretty good deal, man. That's a pretty good deal. You can't deny this. Yeah. So we're gonna take a hard right turn.
Yeah,
we're gonna take a hard right after this. So this next article, a few weeks ago, we mentioned a book called Black Ops Advertising.
Mm-hmm.
I think we mentioned that, didn't we?
Yeah.
I'll have to go back.
Sure.
Have to go back through show notes, but
yeah.
Black Ops Advertising and excuse me, one of the things that we discussed in this, we were talking about the state of journalism and the fact that outside interest groups are consistently paying to position messaging in different platforms that you wouldn't, or different, I was going to say not periodicals, but on different websites and kind of news with different news organizations that you wouldn't necessarily think.
Yeah.
We discussed the New York Times, and we may have mentioned the Wall Street Journal, and so this is a pretty common thing. So this was an article that I stumbled on last week, and it's by this is a pretty far right source here, but I dig it because it's it's pretty gnarly. I like to check stuff out that's like super far left, super far right, and and just kind of pull from it. But this was pretty interesting.
Take
I did
the
some
average.
That's exactly right. But I did some fact checking on this, and it definitely checks out. But so the title of the article is here are 410 movies made under the direct influence and supervision of the Pentagon. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're discussing here, right? Is like how much influence does the Pentagon, have on maybe entertainment broadly, but specifically for this segment, movies. Mm-hmm. Now, slight aside here. I think anybody that says no, anybody that's shocked by this is just like clearly has their head in their ass, because I mean. the amount of money that we have tied in, into defense budgets in the United States, it is a meaningful portion, of total GDP. And so of course, the Pentagon and I guess more broadly, just I guess all armed forces go through the Pentagon, correct?
I would think so.
Yeah. So it makes sense. It makes sense that they'd have their hands on the strings of some of these movies being greenlit. Now, one thing I wasn't able to find out is if there has been evidence that there have been like tax breaks given to any of these films that have been kind of friendly towards the kind of the military and kind of the hegemonic goals of the U.S. or whatever. Mm-hmm. If any of these titles have been given tax breaks or had any sort of investment, I highly doubt it. I mean, that would be really squirrely. But here's what I thought was really funny. Couple things here. Number one, there's some titles here where it's like, yeah, no shit, right? Pearl Harbor, United 93, Sum of All Fears, Captain Phillips, Hurt Locker, Zero Dark 30, Argo. I mean, these are American Sniper. Like, definitely, like, that makes sense, right? But in this list, there's also Ernest Saves Christmas.
That's what I was like, I can really, like you said, I can totally understand this previously named movies, but it's like, wait a second, Ernest Saves Christmas?
Ernest Saves Christmas. And I think in the outtakes, like in the director's cut of Ernest Saves Christmas, there's actually a part there where Ernest is like, well, I mean, we do need that Iraqi oil, don't we, Vern?
No, honestly, I'm thinking that the reason that they don't show Vern ever is because he's a high-ranking Pentagon official.
That's exactly right. He was like, you know what I mean, Vern? And then Vern's on the other side, and he's like, fucking of course I know what we mean. I know what you mean, Ernest. I've got this whole motherfucker bugged,
Yeah, right.
I've been tracking your emails for 10 years, dipshit, No, but wasn't there actually, now that I think about it, which I did not review, admittedly, Ernest Saves Christmas for this segment here, but wasn't there a portion of that movie that had to do with the military? There wasn't there? Where it was like the military helped Ernest or something.
Well, see, I think that you're referencing Ernest helps SEAL Team 6.
Right.
It came out a little bit later.
Ernest slays Obama. I mean, excuse me, slays Osama. Ernest slays Osama. That was it.
Oh, that's awesome. But no, I don't know, man. I'd say that, I would think that maybe.
Well, hold up. Let me get this in here.
Yeah,
Karate Kid 2, mm-hmm. Silence of the Lambs, Twister, Iron Man, that one makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And then Pitch Perfect 3. So I don't really know what's going on with Pitch Perfect 3, but go ahead.
I was just gonna say at some point, I think that, or at some point in one of the Ernest movies, I don't know, I feel like he ends up on like a military base or some shit. You know what I'm saying? I don't know why or what movie, but I vaguely remember something like that, but also it could be the power of suggestion. So I don't know.
It could be. We're gonna have to do. I had a long conversation with somebody yesterday, just a slight aside on memory and how memory is basically the way that you think you remember things. You absolutely do not. And this is an aside here, so I'm just gonna say this real quickly, just because it was really interesting and I think people might dig it. But basically, during 9/11 at NYU, when the towers got hit, this professor at NYU got his students to write down exactly what they were doing, right? This is like a psychology professor, and send to him exactly what they were doing on that day. Then 10 years later, he had them write their recollection of what they were doing.
Yeah.
And these two things were so wildly different. Of 700 students, not one was even close in their recollection from 10 years, later. Their recollection was not even close as to what they were doing on that day.
I think that kind of falls under the same thing as people like witnesses to like crimes and stuff.
Absolutely.
That it's like you ask 5 witnesses and what color the car was that the suspect got into, and they're like, oh, you get 5 different answers.
Absolutely. But, let's put a pin in that, because I think that could be really cool to come back to in the next episode. Do something with memory. I don't know. Do you want to take a quick note on that?
I got you, dude.
So I have an accompanying article from, it was a Medium post. This was a few years ago, I believe. No, actually, excuse me. This was last year, July of last year, from a guy named Tom Secker.
Well, this is hopping back into the
Pentagon.
The Pentagon stuff.
The Pentagon affecting films that come out, and and making sure that messaging is in line, I guess, with the way that the way that they see the world.
Yeah.
And so this article by this guy Tom Secker, it's titled "Documents Expose How Hollywood Promotes War on Behalf of the Pentagon, CIA, and NSA." So we're going to post that as well, so you guys can dig into it a little bit more. But I mean, I guess suffice to say for this segment, like, there's no doubt that there's got to be some psychological, I guess what would the word be? I guess terraforming, if you will, for kind of the nation's psyche, to keep us involved in some of these conflicts, right? And
totally. And plus, dude, war is an insane money generator.
Right.
So,
well, I think on that side. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, no. I mean, it's just that people just don't realize, like, obviously, I'm not a proponent for war. If a peaceful compromise kind of thing can be achieved, that I hope, but sometimes war is inevitable and a necessary evil kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, like, it's just an insane money generator for the economy and stuff, and I would think that it would somewhat play a role in bringing nations together,
Well, that's right. That's right. I mean, they say they being, just kind of popular, I guess popular kind of, thought on why nations go to war. It's, it's all about the dollar. And then it's this kind of emotional angle that gets people to actually go, right?
Yeah.
Actually gets people to actually go and fight. Because the brutal reality is that, a certain socioeconomic class goes and fights another certain socioeconomic class's wars.
Yeah.
Fact, right?
Yeah.
But I was just going to mention this real quickly because there were these 2 books that I read late last year by this lady named Barbara Tuchman. And these books are actually really old. They were published in, I want to say, I've got one here, in 72, right? 1962 or 72. And one of the books is called The Proud Tower, and it's a portrait of the world before, the World War One, right? Mm-hmm. And then the other book that she wrote, which is like a follow-up to The Proud Tower, is called The Guns of August. And it gets into, the month of August in the First World War. Yeah. And it's a slight digression, I guess, on kind of the Pentagon pulling strings in Hollywood, but I still think it's relevant. Basically Germany was looking for a reason to go to war, right? Like popular kind of like the zeitgeist of German thought at the time was that Germany needed to expand past its borders. And anyway, suffice to say, man,
sorry, you might have already mentioned this, but are you talking about like World War One?
I'm talking about World War One. Yeah, I'm talking about World War I.
Sorry, I didn't hear a date, and
and so the rationale was largely just kind of this growing of the German economy, right, past its borders. But then they used this idea of like German destiny to really get people revved up behind the cause, right? Mm-hmm. And so anyway, this happens always. Like we wouldn't have been in World War II had Japan not, bombed us and had, the supply chains, like merchant ships that were being torpedoed like crazy in the Atlantic and whatever. It all comes down to economic rationale, why people get into war, and then, emotions really drive war. Mm-hmm. And so it makes absolute sense. I mean, if you stop for a second and just think about like what kind of mental state you've got to get people in for it to be okay to, run predator drone missions from like trailers in Vegas. You know what I mean? Like you are like blowing people up. You're killing people. Yeah. You're shooting missiles into like, into people's homes and killing people. And I'm not saying some of these people are bad people, I'm sure. And some of these people are definitely, would want to kind of, curtail your freedom or whatever. But my point is that you've definitely got to get your populace kind of whipped up and get them kind of in the mindset. And when you see something like American Sniper or, Black Hawk Down or whatever, just really humanizes this thing that a lot of people don't have exposure to. And, and like you said, dude, the war machine matters because there's a huge dollar sign attached to it. So anyway, I thought I like articles like this because we know this stuff happens, mm-hmm. but there are people, like this guy, Tom Secker, who, let's see, he says that he's an investigative journalist, a journalist, investigative historian, podcaster, an author, and you can support him at Patreon. So anyway, we'll put this link up, but, pretty cool just to kind of poke around and see, what records there are on some of the films that the Pentagon has directly influenced and had their hands on. And it makes sense. But, that's kind of, I guess, one of the points of this podcast is to, dig a little bit deeper in as much time as we can on 5 or 6 articles and, really encourage some more research on the part of the listener if you have time. There's some really cool rabbit holes out there. So, and this is one of them. So anyway, take a look. Cool. So what do we have next? Speaking of of reality shaping.
Yeah. So this other article that we pulled was from CNN, and we're kind of switching up. I feel like we talk about that. Well, or at least for this episode, we're going to be talking about social media a decent bit, and this is just one of the effects that social media has had on the mentality of the mass, mass people kind of thing, or the masses. But anyway, so this article's called "Social Media Filters Mess with Our Perception So Much There's Now a Name for It," and it's really interesting because I know at this point people have probably heard accounts of people basically becoming like depressed and having like social anxiety stuff that is brought on by Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all this stuff. Because, you know, it's not like people post a realistic representation of themselves on those, you know.
Sure.
Everybody tweaks their stuff. Everybody basically, you're posting the highlights of your life, you know. So anytime somebody is not having that great of a time or whatever, or they're, you know, they might not view themselves as being very attractive or whatever, then they hop on social media and they're just inundated with all these, you know, these posts that have been tweaked and, you know, shopped to the point to where, you know, everybody looks like a model, we'll say, you know.
Right.
So they were basically, they've started diving into this a little bit more, and they've come up with this term that's called Snapchat dysmorphia. And it kind of stems from, or it's kind of the same as
just like body dysmorphia or whatever.
Yeah, well, exactly.
It's just you're uncovering it. You're uncovering. I'm just on one of these links. It's just like selfies are so fucking dumb. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But now all these apps have come about and all these like Snapchat filters and stuff that it's supposed to like make you, you know, more attractive. It, you know, makes you glow. It makes you do this, that, and the other, whatever. Basically, not look like what you actually look like. Well, so there's actually been a rise in the number of people under the age of 30 that are seeking out plastic surgery at this point.
Right.
And I think that they said that this rise, they were actually, I say they, I believe this was an article in JAMA, which is I believe it's the Journal of American I don't know what JAMA. I forgot what JAMA was. Actually, I think it's the Journal of like American Medicine or American Medical Association or something like that.
Association, yeah, exactly. And then there's like this article comes through facial plastic surgery.
Yeah,
a little subheader of facial plastic surgery.
Yeah. And so basically, you know, they had an interview within this CNN article of this lady that's, you know, thinking about going and having plastic surgery done to look more like basically what her Snapchat filter makes her look like. And they interviewed some plastic surgeons, and they're like, yes, that's, you know, instead of the old way of doing it was basically people would seek it out, normally older individuals, you know, probably over 40 kind of thing.
Right.
And what they would do is, and I say older individuals, not that 40 is that old, but anyway, but yeah, so normally the process would be, okay, we're going to hand you a mirror, and then you're going to point out what features that you aren't happy with, you know, and then we can go from there. Well, now they've had, they being the doctors interviewed, they have this just like surge of people basically being like, oh, well, I can't really show you in the mirror. Let me show you this like photo that I took kind of thing. And all, lo and behold, it's, you know, using, apparently there's like this app called Facetuned that like, you know, you can like make your eyes a little bit bigger. You can like,
you can't make this shit up. It's crazy.
It really is, dude. And I mean, it's one of these things that, I mean, people have just become so incredibly self-obsessed, you know, and they talk about it in this article that it's like the age of the selfie has really been the main reason that people have become more obsessed with looks and stuff, because, you know, originally you'd have photos, and these photos you'd look at them occasionally kind of thing, but it's not like, right, you know, you're not gonna see thousands, or not thousands, we'll say hundreds of photos of yourself over the course of a year. You know what I'm saying? Right. Well, maybe thousands. Shit, you know, some people are pumping out selfies like it's their job, but Hell, isn't Kim Kardashian made like releasing a selfie book? And it's literally...
I don't know. This is new to me.
I believe the book is actually titled Selfish. No shit.
Okay.
And, but anyway, so, something else that they covered in this article that I thought was actually, I mean, this just shows you how huge, like, just literally the selfie industry is, because that is exactly what this is, you know? But there's this company, I guess, called Refinery 29.
Okay.
And they started doing these, they have this 29 rooms, thing. And I guess it's this mobile thing that they can set up. And basically they allow public access, and people it's just conducive to taking selfies. It's like different backgrounds, like interesting backgrounds and stuff like that. And apparently they did it in 2016, and over the course of 3 days, they had 20,000 visitors and generated over 310 million social interactions over those 3 days. So then they did it again in 2017, and I believe this is
Refinery 29. Can
you shed some light? I'm not that familiar with it.
Refinery 29 is like a really hip, digital media group.
Mm-hmm.
And so it says that they're focused on young women. I actually didn't realize that. But I know that I'm piping in here from LA today. Mm-hmm. And Refinery 29 is always doing like pop-up shops and, you know.
Well, and that's actually what
like
that's actually what they were talking about in December of 2017, because the first one that they did, the little like pop-up shop kind of thing, was in New York.
Right.
And so then they did one in 2017 in LA, and kind of the same setup with the 3 days and stuff, and they generated over 520 million social interaction.
That's wild,
things.
dude.
I mean, dude, it's just some crazy stuff, but you know, obviously it's being used a hell of a lot and everything. Well, you know what? As soon as all these people, you know, post all this stuff, then everybody's going to see it, and that's where the body dysmorphic disorder comes in, is because it's, you know, basically, to define it, they said it was excessive preoccupation with a perceived flaw in appearance classified on the obsessive compulsive spectrum. And they said that it would be pretty much linked to eating disorders and depression. So, I mean, it's the same thing as, you know, a person looking in the mirror and seeing some overweight, whatever, ugly person, and so they starve themselves, kind of thing. It's just a completely unrealistic view of yourself, kind of thing. Well, it's just putting it more and more in people's face, you know, with all the selfies and all the access, the constant access to social media, man. I mean, it really is insane. And they actually go on to talk about how people have actually been seeking out plastic surgery on hands for wedding engagement photos. I mean, it's like some crazy shit, man.
So I think that you know, it's going to be really interesting to look back in like 5 years and just be like, we are so past the point of no return that it's now, you know, that like now we all just look like, just like filtered, you know,
like
filter
Barbies and Kens walking around.
Yeah, or it's just like, you know,
or at least that's what you see through your Google glasses.
The human form is just gonna change, right? Where everybody's got like these big eyes, and you know they're like really far apart. Like everybody looks like anime, you know, anime.
Either that, or everybody's going to like just go simpler and simpler to where, you know, everybody's just a stick figure.
Right. Everybody's just a thumb.
A thumb, yeah, exactly.
But I mean, I definitely get it, because you're not going to see flaws. You know, I mean, I don't know. I feel like I don't even look in the mirror that often. Maybe, you know, I should ask those around me. Maybe I just look like shit all the time. But like, you know, yeah. But it's you know, so one of the things I wanted to bring up, which we'll use, is we'll have to kind of put kid gloves on this, but I know someone who is in California. I've known this person for a while. Dale, you know this person too. Mm-hmm. And the like Instagram and social has really changed kind of who they are as a person.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And so it's been really interesting, because I've known this person for a really long time, and have known this couple for a really long time. Mm-hmm. And it's been like an insane change, right? Where the way that they peg reality is so very different. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, like, I mean, obviously we'd have to, you know, ask a bunch of other people that know them, but you and I actually don't use social very frequently. I don't think. I don't know.
Yeah, no. I mean, honestly, other than you know, stuff for Tether and
like I don't have Facebook. Do you have Facebook?
Yeah, no, I don't have Facebook anymore. I'm on Twitter, but I mean, I don't tweet. It's more like a lurker account kind of thing.
And you're not right, and you're not tweeting your face, right?
Yeah. No.
And so I just think it's interesting, because I mean, there's definitely something to be said for, you know, being kind of introspective or whatever. But man, it's just
it's a slippery slope, I would think.
I feel sorry for folks that are just so wrapped up in this that they think about it a lot. You know, and I guess, look, I mean, the happy person wins. So if this truly makes you happy, and that's just kind of where you are, and that's what you want to do, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Like, go for it. But it just seems like that there's more kind of, it's not about like self-inspection. It's about like, I don't know, like trying to, you know, go towards this, you know, stride towards this fantasy land that doesn't exist anyway. I don't know, man. I mean, we talked about the Kardashians a few episodes back. Like, that shit never ceases to amaze me. You see these people, they don't look like humans.
Yeah, well,
like,
and that's my thing.
Is they just look like manufactured, you know, flesh and bone, man. It's weird. It's weird.
Yeah. But anyway, it's going to be very interesting to see, to just see where social media goes with all this stuff. And honestly, I would really like to dive into the social media's effect on people's like mental status, man. Because you know these studies are being performed at this point, and I think that social media has been out there long enough to probably have some conclusive evidence, you know. So or at least correlating evidence kind of thing. But anyway,
well,
speaking,
I thought that was a cool article, because we're only gonna have to deal with more of this type of stuff, and I mean, it really, technology has outpaced the way that human beings certainly do business, right? Mm-hmm. And so we're like updating all of these kind of, you know, faster ways of connecting, and, you know, maybe better ways of connecting in some ways. But it's like, now technology in the past, I would say 15 years has outpaced the way that humans make connections with each other to such a degree that, like, you know, we're like questioning the fabric of how we connect with each other, which I think is really interesting. Hey, wait, what's this?
Lord, destroy the child, corrupt them all. This is their plan, people. These are demons.
Whoa.
What?
Whoa. Seems like we got a little Alex Jones clippery in the background there. This is the plan. This is the plan. These people are demons. All right, dude, bring us into AJ.
All right, man. So, unless you've been living under a rock, you have seen the assault on Alex Jones by big tech, we'll say.
And let's make sure that we're not loading this, and too heavily in one direction.
Oh no,
Alex Jones is a crazy.
Oh yeah. No, I'm not. I by no means like Alex Jones. It's like, and we talked about this a little bit. Sometimes he says some things that are like, maybe, but like, dude, it's basically put in between phrases like the water's making the frogs gay and
right.
shit like that. So it's like, oh, you're kind of discrediting yourself, obviously with some of these conclusions. But anyway, it was very fascinating how on Monday, August 6th, apparently Big Tech had decided that they and social media had decided that they had enough of Alex Jones.
Let's start with like specific companies, right? Because this was like a kind of a waterfall thing, right?
Yeah, well, no, exactly. And so what happened was, Apple, I believe Apple was the first to pull, 5 out of 6 podcasts that Alex Jones, I guess, catalogs on through the iTunes store kind of thing. And a little bit later on, Facebook and Google decided to. Google basically pulling his stuff off of YouTube. And then basically they banned all his creation of content kind of stuff. And then, let's see. Then actually Pinterest and Spotify followed suit kind of thing. And I mean, this is all within, I want to say, about 12 hours that it started with Apple and just like spread like wildfire among these different groups. And basically their reasoning was that he was spreading rumors and hate speech, and they said that they wanted to provide a, quote, safe environment for all of our users.
Right.
They said that, and they being Apple, podcasts that violate these guidelines are removed from our directory, making them no longer searchable or available for downloading or streaming. We believe in representing a wide range of views, so long as people are respectful to those with differing opinions. So, man, it's very peculiar that all of the sudden everybody would decide that Alex Jones is no longer promoting, to quote Twitter, a healthy conversation.
Right.
I mean, dude, he's been spitting this shit for years. I mean,
Right.
InfoWars has been around since 1999. I didn't realize it was that old.
Oh, dude, absolutely.
I mean, he's been doing shit for longer than before he created InfoWars.
Absolutely. I mean, he was in, so my buddy Paul was in Austin, living in Austin when Alex Jones was like becoming a thing, right?
Yeah.
And his whole thing was like, yeah, man, I used to actually listen to Alex Jones.
Yeah.
And then,
well, I mean, dude, if nothing else, it's entertaining.
Well, right, and the thing you got to remember about like this son of a bitch is crazy. Like some of the shit that he says is wild, but in the same way that the National Enquirer breaks stories first because they have no effing filter, they have no filter. They print anything. They talk about anything. Yeah. So that means that they get most things very wrong and some things really right way ahead of time. Yeah. I kind of see Alex Jones in the same way. However, my buddy Paul brought up a really good point, which was that, like, look, this dude's a business too, right? Alex Jones and his media properties is a business. So he's got to say the craziest, most outlandish shit that he possibly can to get people to kind of come back and visit his media properties. So, I just looked it up. Alex Jones is worth about $10 million according to a couple of sources. So, the guy's done a very good job of like cornering this like extreme, the conspiratorial kind of territory, on the right. What is fascinating though is that, this was coming along at a really interesting time. So did you hear about this lady, Sarah Jeong, this Korean lady, Jeong, yeah, I think is how you pronounce her last name, who was recently hired to the New York Times editorial board. Have you heard of this lady?
Was she like ranting about like go ahead. I don't want to. Well, go ahead. So, I think I know what you're talking about, but
so it's my level setting statement here is that I don't have a problem with a company saying like, this is the line, you cross this line, you can't be here. No, I have no problem at all with that at all. Like, you should absolutely be able to do that for sure, right? But it's just a double standard is just silly, and like I hate that this like double standard conversation is within the context of left and right, because I really don't see it that way at all. Yeah. I think that it's just there's a bigger problem, and actually that feeds into the comment that I made a little bit earlier about about Instagram. Kind of changing the way that people understand connections with each other, right? It is like if there is a line and you're a company, draw that line. If people step across that line, that's fine. Get rid of it. But you've got to apply the rule.
It has to be across the board, man.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
In an equitable way. And so, anyway, I bring up the New York Times hire of Sarah Jeong, because Sarah Jeong, I think that's how you pronounce it, Jeong. She's this Korean lady. But, some of these tweets, all right? This person was just hired by the New York Times. I'm just going to read a couple of these tweets, right? Yeah. Let's see. One of them says, let's see. Okay. This is a direct tweet from her. Oh man, it's kind of sick and cruel how much I enjoy, or oh man, it's kind of sick how much joy I get out of being cruel to old white men. Let's see. Another one, she said, I opened my mouth to politely greet a Republican, but nothing but an unending cascade of vomit flowed from my face. Are white people genetically predisposed to burn faster in the sun, thus logically being fit to live underground like groveling goblins? Like, this is some stuff that she put out there. Okay. So then there's this lady who's this African American, chick that sits on the right named Candace Owen. And she writes, Jewish people are bullshit, like dogs pissing on fire hydrants. Hashtag cancel Jewish people. Are Jewish people genetically disposed to burn faster in the sun? The above statements are from New York Times editor Sarah Jeong. I simply swapped out the word white for Jewish. So like, my point is like, I don't have a problem with Sarah Jeong tweeting this shit. Yeah. Like at all. If she wants to tweet like super inflammatory, crazy stuff, like go ahead. You know, I mean, really at all. Like for me, the line gets drawn when she's like, hey, here's a person, go assault them or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Or like, here's a group of people, go hurt these people, right?
Yeah, like
Calls
promoting
to
like
action.
witch hunt kind of shit,
or just like
yeah.
like literal calls to action for violence. That is a line, right?
Yes.
But
Yeah.
if she wants to get on here and rant about how much she hates white people, who gives a shit? I mean, really, I think that's, and so I bring that up as an example because I think that the Alex Jones thing is a little odd to me. And again, it sucks because it's being phrased in this, it's being politicized. It's being politicized because, putting the tinfoil hat on for a second, I think that politicians kind of like to keep us in this place where everything's politicized, right?
Yeah.
But I just think that it's silly that, I'm sure we could go through Twitter and we could find many things like Sarah Zhang that are like her tweets that are still on there. Nobody's getting slapped on the wrist. It's inflammatory shit, whatever.
Well,
Is that the
but
same
real quick,
as Alex Jones? No, I don't know. He's got like a huge media kind of property behind him. But my point is that it's just there is inflammatory stuff on these social media sites, and they should be able to frankly stay there until they like cross a line, which in my mind should be, kind of calling out real world action, from this kind of these virtual sites that encourage discourse. What were we going to say? Go ahead.
Well, the only thing that I was going to say is actually Twitter has been the only like major social media platform that has not banned him.
Right. I remember.
I honestly, I have more respect for Twitter now because of what you just said. Yes, Sarah Zhang can have, she can say whatever the hell she wants on there. She's not being banned. Well, you know what? Alex Jones isn't going to be banned either because, everything in I guess in moderation to an extent. But
but it's interesting that you've got Facebook and Instagram. Or was Instagram on that list?
Instagram, well, I would think so because Facebook owns Instagram.
Oh, got it. Okay, so Facebook,
but I'm not. I don't know if he actually has an Instagram.
So this eliminating hate speech thing, it's just like, dude, if somebody has a shitty opinion because they're a shitty person and they want to share that shitty opinion, like whatever, I mean, that's and what is hard to kind of wrap your mind around in this, and we'll get into this briefly here, but in this conversation of like freedom of speech, which by the way is not applicable to companies that are private companies, right? Mm-hmm. That are not that Facebook is traded publicly, but if the shareholders of Facebook say this is okay, then here's a rule and you broke it and that's fine, then so be it, right?
Yeah.
So the First Amendment is not applicable to companies that are, in my mind, that are not
private business, basically.
To a private business, that's exactly right. And so there is no freedom of speech argument here, I don't think. Mm-hmm. But it's just.
But that's when you get into, in my opinion, kind of I don't know if it would necessarily be ethical kind of thing, but it's one of those things that, okay, everybody knows that Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, it has insane reach kind of thing to the masses.
Yes.
And so once you start muting certain people, there's one word that comes to mind: censorship. You know? And so then you start looking into who runs these companies, who's in their pockets.
But I don't know that this is a new problem.
Well, no, and I'm not,
because people have been doing this. I mean, like there's a term. Have you ever heard the term muckraking and yellow journalism?
Yes,
right,
definitely.
Okay,
basically slandering and kind of
stuff. So this was when newspapers were the equivalent of the internet, right?
Yeah. Well, no, exactly.
They would print whatever the shit that they wanted, and I mean, there was in the Spanish-American War, if I'm not mistaken, there were some serious serious speculation that the reason that the Spanish-American War was even a thing and was ramped up was because of, you know, some of the journalism that was untoward that was happening, and you know, at some of these groups. So I don't know that it's a new problem, but it's just magnified. Man, is it magnified, you know?
But is there not? I mean, I know, or there used to be a standard for journalism that it's like, oh, we don't do that shit.
Yeah,
kind of, you know, but that's what I'm talking about.
But I don't know if there ever really has been. I mean, you know, I used to work with somebody who was came up through NPR, was a journalist first and kind of working in technology second. Mm-hmm. And, you know, she would tell stories about, you know, being offered like, you know, a helicopter ride to go to see this oil derrick. And she would know, you know, I'm not going to do that. Like, this is against, you know, journalistic ethics. And I'm not saying that there aren't people like that. I'm sure there are, but it's just, you know, this situation is just so convoluted. Like, you know, who knows on the journalist side. Now, when it comes to like, social media, Facebook is the publisher, man. That's what they do. They are publishing this content, right? And they're publishing this content to billions of people. Mm-hmm. So my point, and I'll just go back and underscore it, like the way that humans connect with each other, technology has outpaced this to such a degree that like there are some people, I am certain of it, that spend the vast majority of their time online on Facebook. And so that is the world Facebook wants you to see, because they keep you in this little bell jar, this little echo chamber based on algorithms that they're running to get you to buy things, right? Yeah. So that, I mean, I think that's the crazy part, is like now, you know, eliminating anybody that's not inciting violence, that's not like stepping over a line. I just think it's just not good form. Can they do it? Yeah, they can legally do it absolutely all day long. But, and, you know, I'm not going to say they don't understand their power. I think they absolutely understand their power, and that's why they're doing stuff like this, you know? So.
Well, I think the argument really is not that, you know, whether or not these companies have the right to, basically censor, you know, who they see as not contributing to, you know, whatever, making a safe space unsafe, or not contributing to a healthy conversation or something. Right. Everybody, or lots of people view these different social media platforms as public platforms. Right. So, and that's why everybody's up in arms, because they're like, well, wait a second. I mean, this could kind of be seen as, I mean, it could kind of be seen as that evangelical preacher on the corner pounding his Bible, you know, and you know what I'm saying, and something along those lines, but it's just in digital format.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so I think that I don't know, man. I mean, I think that it's a very fine line that you would walk as one of these companies, because, I mean, shit, dude, you know, I would think that less people would want to use you if they find out that it's, you know, they're only seeing what you want them to see.
So I think that we have become so accustomed to living in a world where we are fed only what we want when we want it. Into like, we have become accustomed to living in a curated reality that I think the vast majority of people are like, yeah, fuck Alex Jones, fuck this. And it's like, dude, I don't agree with Alex Jones. Yeah. Right? Like, I don't agree with, you know, certain pond water making frogs gay or whatever. Like, I don't, that's not in my fact set necessarily. But I think that there are people that the vast majority of people don't like hearing things that make them uncomfortable. Right? Yeah. And in order to kind of grow your worldview, you have to hear things that make you uncomfortable. You have to hear things that are like shocking. You have to hear things that are counter to the reality that you've built up. I mean, this is like what growth is, right? Like if you want to become, better at anything. I mean, dude, I'm doing a super deep dive right now on the language Go, right? Which is like this lower level language, programming language that was developed at Google. And it's like I don't know anything about this. It's super painful. I'm like screwing a lot of stuff up. I'm like, writing a couple things in Go, and they suck and they break and they don't work and it's frustrating. But it's like that's part of the learning process. That's like how you get better at things, right? And I think frankly that's what makes human beings unique, is that we can say this is what I believe today, and if new facts emerge, we can say, okay, this makes sense. I'm going to incorporate this into the way that I see the world and the way that I behave in the world. And so, not to go too far away, because again, we are talking about, this crazy ass Alex Jones, but it's just, I think that it's to get in the habit of censoring things just because they're like bombastic, and you just don't agree with them is
or
wild.
Or just undesirable. Yeah.
It's wild because there is a world where like, things that are desirable to you are undesirable to other people. And I know that sounds so obvious, but, there was a time, man. There was a time when gay authors, gay artists, right? They were undesirables.
Yeah.
And first of all, they were like a group. They would say like, no, this is like a group of like undesirable. It's like gosh, who wrote the oh my gosh, Tchaikovsky, right? How do you pronounce his last name? Tchaikovsky. That wrote the Dance of the Fairy Plum Fairies.
Oh, Tchaikovsky.
Sorry,
yeah.
Tchaikovsky. I'm sorry, my brain is mush after handling Go all weekend. But Tchaikovsky. So Russia tried to scrub that this guy was a gay man, right? Like that is very, very real. There's an awesome podcast called Case Notes that goes through different kind of crazy things that happened around different composers, and they cover this in one of these episodes of Case Notes. But there's like this idea that Russia, that at the time, this guy was so famous that Russia couldn't afford or didn't feel like that they could afford for people to know that he was gay, right?
Yeah.
And that I mean, this is speculative, but that could have led to his death, because his death was very suspect, and a lot of people thought that he committed suicide.
Yeah.
And so, because he was asked to make sure that he kept his sexuality under wraps. So my point is, in 2018, that's absurd, right?
Yeah.
But Alan Turing, man, like one of the pillars of computing, was also prosecuted under laws that were acceptable in Britain at the time, that were accepted to prosecute gay men, right? So that's my point. Is like that we're not that far from, and that was what, the 50s. Right, like 40s, 50s. I mean,
yeah. It would be 40s, 50s.
So not that long ago. So that's my point, is that it's Alex Jones. Yes, like it's super crazy, but shit changes, and like the companies with that kind of power just just dropping the hammer on folks. It's like Alex Jones today, and then it's somebody that's maybe not so inflammatory tomorrow that somebody just doesn't like. And by the way, legally they have the ability to do that, and if that's what their shareholders support, that's fine. But I think the purpose of this kind of line of thought here is just really dig deeper into this stuff, and like really, really like think about these different angles that are a little bit uncomfortable, and kind of like put this in your like mental blender, and like,
Well, it's like, dude, it's like watching the first 15 minutes of a movie and writing a review for it.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Absolutely, dude. And
you know what I'm saying?
And it's like, again, gotta say it again, Alex Jones is says some far out shit.
Yeah.
But and I'm not frankly I'm not a huge Alex Jones fan really at all.
Yeah.
There's this guy Paul Joseph Watson. I read some of the stuff. It's like all these dudes are kind of in the same camp, and I kind of have my that's like the conservative side. I will like read a bunch of these guys, and then there's like this kind of liberal camp that are personalities of kind of, similar, this similar kind of bombastic approach. And I'm like, I'm into that as well. So it's just, I don't know. I think that it's dangerous to curtail it. But anyway.
But it's just getting the whole story, or at least putting forth effort to get the whole story kind of thing before coming to conclusions, as opposed to this safe, curated, whatever, feed, life feed.
Yeah.
But
you just made me think of something though. So the business model of social media, it runs completely counter to someone who is interested in investigating different angles.
Oh yeah, totally.
Cannot happen.
Yeah.
Impossible. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
No, you're right. You're right.
But listen, man, I want to say something real quickly. You are a screwtoid.
No, you know what? Take them's fighting words. You take that shit back. And it's a skewtoid, isn't it?
Yeah, skewtoid. Excuse me. Excuse me.
Oh, what a damn skew.
So yeah, you think I'm a skewtoid? You're an effing skewtoid. Yeah, awesome on the Alex Jones thing, and we'll continue to follow that. So skewtoids. This article comes from the New Yorker. Skewtoid is a new shape, right?
Skewtoids. Are they coming to get you? Have you already been taken over by one?
Skewtoids. Eat them or beat them. Next at the 11th hour. At the 11 p.m. hour. So this is kind of interesting. First of all, I haven't really thought about the way that shapes get discovered, which is kind of an interesting little rabbit hole in and of itself. But so anyway, long story short, some mathematicians have kind of come up with this, and proven out this idea that they've named a skewtoid. And so the way to think about a skewtoid is basically it's like a prism with a zipper, right?
Which I feel like is not very helpful, or at least to my mind's eye.
Let me read this quote, right? Let me read this little quote from the article. What matters is that mathematicians had never before conceived of the skewtoid, much less given it a name. What matters even more is that skewtoids turn out to be everywhere, especially in living things. The shape, however odd, is a building block of multicellular organisms. Complex life might never have emerged on Earth without it. Its existence, Busetta said, the guy mentioned in the article, allows you to understand the fundamentals of morphogenesis and development, how cells act together when they're forming and developing. So basically, this is the idea of a single cell starting to split, and those cells becoming gosh, what's the word, Daniel? You're the microbiologist.
Like cells becoming a tissue, becoming an organ, becoming
assigned to a certain function.
Yeah.
And then because of the assignment of that function to that certain function, they then develop in a specific way. So like why does a human being look like a human being looks? And that's because ultimately when you kind of distill this down, bone cells look and behave a certain way, kidney cells look and behave a certain
differentiation.
way.
Is that what you're
Differentiation gives us this basic form, right? Yeah. That's why we're not just like blobs.
Yeah.
And so they just give an example of like the analogy of a Roman arch, right? Where in order to get the arch to do what you need it to do, you have to take a stone that theoretically would have, as you're thinking about creating a brick, it would have been a rectangle, but you can't have rectangles create arches, right? That this rectangle has to morph slightly. And so anyway, there's a huge crazy rabbit hole here. We will definitely post the article. But askew toyed, you are one, and that's what makes you different than Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah.
Boom.
Boom. Shakalaka.
Why don't you tell me about the newest, most delicious trend on social?
Yeah, so well, first of all, I'm gonna give a shout out to a Twitter account called Best of Next Door. If you're not familiar with it, Nextdoor is an app that basically people you sign up for, and it will help you connect with neighbors for various reasons. Most of what I've seen on it, because Megan and I are actually on that, so I guess that is some kind of social media, but I kind of just lurk on there also. But people will post some of the damnedest shit on there that is like absolutely hilarious. But this has actually got pulled from that the Best of Nextdoor account kind of thing, but Fox News actually picked it up. Anyway, so the article's name was "Woman's Ad for Raw Chicken Teddy Bears Pulled from Facebook Marketplace." So this lady had posted this thing on the Facebook Marketplace, and it literally is a teddy bear that is made out of chicken skin. If it sounds like it's something out of a nightmare, that is exactly what it is. Because
sounds delicious.
Yeah. No, and the best part is, in the post, she says, you can eat it. You can cook it and eat it. I mean, dude, it's just like
it's like stitched together, right?
Yeah.
And it looks like Chucky. It looks like Chucky when he was like blown to hell in like Chucky 6.
Yeah. Well, so somebody's quoted, and I think they like replied to her or something, and they said she totally missed the opportunity to name her business Buffalo Bill the Bear.
Yeah, dude.
Which is obviously referencing Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs. So because everybody knows it puts the lotion on its skin, or else it gets the hose again.
Or else it gets the hose. And dude, this picture is wild. And she also says, edible and can be cooked. Great family activity. Did you go over the pricing here? It's 25. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, so it's $25. And by the way, I don't think that this is available, so you're more than welcome to try to order one of these bad boys. But it was $25 if you provide the chicken, and $35 if you don't provide the chicken. And she said that it was a fun activity, a great family activity, and she also basically advertises that she can also make clothes for your chicken skin teddy bear.
Which now that's the part where I'd like a little follow up. What does that mean?
I'm assuming, like, honestly,
like a celery hat.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. She just like hollows out a pepper and puts a hat on it or something, and like I don't know, maybe makes like or maybe opens up a pepper and like cuts 2 holes out for like a vest or something like that.
I don't know, dude. I don't know. It's it's creepy. So you have to see if there's a franchise of Buffalo Bill the Bear that pops up anywhere near you.
but so a real quick anecdote about Nextdoor. I actually did hop on there one time, and I saw a really, really funny post that this person had posted that a swarm of bees was outside of their home, and all of this looks like it was posted really fast, lots of exclamation points, lots of capitalization, and they were like, if anybody knows how to deal with the bees, I'll here's my address, blah blah blah. They're like, I'm scared to try to make it to my car, and I have to go into work at 1 p.m.
Dude, I mean, bees will mess you up, man.
Oh no, I know. It was just like, it was the most random thing ever.
Oh, this was at your house.
Yeah, no, this was in Knoxville, dude.
Got it. I thought you were saying this was random. Somebody was like, help me with the bees.
No, somebody had just posted that, and they're like, I gotta make it to work, but I'm afraid to try to run to my car. And it just gave me the best mental image of like this person staring out their window and this swarm of bees just like, you know, out there in front of their door waiting for them, you know. But just totally ridiculous.
There you go.
Totally.
What's it called? Side door?
Next door. Yeah, side door, yeah. Backdoor. Backdoor.com.
Backdoor, yeah. It's for those naughty neighbors. For sure.
But
sure.
Anyway, yeah.
Well, look, I certainly appreciate a chicken teddy bear as much as the next person. And, you know, we're coming up to the top of the show here. So I may have to pop one in the oven, but I wanted to remind everyone, first of all, would love to hear from you if you have any thoughts or suggestions for future show topics or any additional insight on any of the topics that we covered today. Feel free to drop us a line at tetherradio@gmail.com. That's TETHERRADIO@gmail.com. Twitter handle is at @tether_radio. Instagram is the same at @tether_radio. Facebook at Tether Radio, all one word. Thank you so much for joining us for yet another episode of Tether Radio. We are keeping you guys connected to the odd and the funky state of of the world. And it's always awesome to have you tune in. So I'm Joseph, and
I'm Daniel.
And this has been yet another episode of Tether Radio, and we remind you to stay tethered, friends. See you next week.
See you guys next week, and stay tethered.